Hello, my creative friends. In this video, I want to talk about aligning with lunar energy for the week of August 7th to the 13th, 2023. This week, we are in the waning moon phases, and it's a really great week to work in our art journals for emotional healing, but also to get in preparation for the next lunar cycle, which is happening with the new moon in Leo. So, I'm going to talk more in depth in this video about how to work with the moon this week, especially daily with each lunar energy you might be facing from Monday to Sunday. And then later in the video, I'm going to go with more detail and talk about how you might want to work with these waning moon phases and how you might want to prepare for that new moon in Leo according to your rising sign. So you're going to want to take out your birth chart if you have it, just so that you can see which astrological house the sign of Leo happens to fall in for you. And if you don't have that, I have a YouTube video on my channel that shows you and goes through the steps of how to create your birth chart so that you know your rising sign. You don't even need to create the birth chart in this video because I show you what astrological sign or what astrological house the sign of Leo will be in according to your rising sign. So if you have your rising sign or you know it, that's all you need to know. It's different than your sun or your moon sign. So you'll definitely want that information. If you don't have it, go check out that video, make up the chart, and then I actually suggest printing out your birth chart. And if you are journaling with the moon alongside me, I would just paste that into your art journal because it's really helpful to get to know your birth chart for aligning with that lunar energy because it helps you be specific about, okay, how do I work with that lunar magic in my own way or in a way that's really representative of how it's being focused in my life, in the areas of my life that that moon is touching this week. So I hope you enjoy the video this week, and we'll go to more detail soon. Okay, my creative friends, this is what the moon looks like this week as it's moving through those waning phases. You'll see that we start the week off with the moon in the disseminating phase, but then it moves all the way into the balsamic phase as we're nearing that new moon. The moon is moving through the signs of Taurus, Gemini, and Cancer this week. So that means it's going to be moving through different astrological houses in your birth chart, and I'll go over that a little bit later. This week in our art journals, we're really working on releasing and letting go and preparing for a new lunar cycle. So it's a good time to wrap things up, to reflect, to assess, and explore the next intentions you want to make. I'm going to go into more detail in a little bit about working with those waning moon phases, so you'll want to definitely stay tuned for that. But for now, let's go through what is happening for the moon on each day this week. On Monday, we're in that waning moon disseminating phase, and the moon is in the sign of Taurus. So it's a really good day to think about feeling grounded and calm, sticking to your routines, and exploring in your art journal your relationship with safety and security because your nervous system really benefits. And if you're someone like me who's highly sensitive but also has a highly sensitive body, I struggle with mast cell activation syndrome. So what's happening with my nervous system is really important because it affects my mast cells. So I really like to work with and remind myself and dose myself just with some feelings of safety so that my system, which has a history of trauma, can really get used to okay, this is what it feels like to feel safe and secure, and my body can pull up memories of safety and security so that it can really sit in that energy. So if you're working with your art journal on Monday, I would encourage you to draw, paint, or collage an image that represents someone or something that makes you feel safe. And then after you've created this image, it's something that you can end up always referring back to when you're having a moment where you're feeling dysregulated or you're feeling upset or you're just feeling emotionally overwhelmed. You can come back to that page and remember why it was that you created or used that imagery and allow it to help you just calm down or help your nervous system to come back into regulation. On Tuesday, the waning moon is still in that sign of Taurus, and it's having a lot of diverse relationships with other planets. On days when it's like that, I tend to feel like, whoa, that's like a energetically and emotionally kind of busy day, or like even a mentally busy day. Um, but we're moving into that last quarter phase. And the last quarter moon is really good to help you draw inward and assess your inner landscape. All of the waning moon phases are that period of letting go and releasing old beliefs, habits, and emotional baggage that no longer serve you. But I see that last quarter phase specifically in terms of decisions and choices, and what choices do I want to really become more connected with, and what choices do I want to let go, or what habits or ways of being do I want to release. In your art journal, you might want to draw, paint, or collage an image that represents what you want to let go before you start considering what seeds of intentions you want to plant next. So it's kind of doing like a cleanse so that you can start with a blank slate. On Wednesday, the moon is in that last quarter phase still, but it's moving into the sign of Gemini. And that's a good day for communication, for exploring your inner duality, for getting comfortable with the many faces and dimensions of your inner self. Because if you're like me, who is Gemini all over the moon, I have a lot of dimensions and faces. So, experience harmony between your heart and mind is also a good day for that, and understanding the feelings of others. In your art journal, take a moment to just draw, paint, or collage an image that represents an emotional or spiritual change you're going through in your life right now. And remember, these images don't have to be fancy, they don't have to be great. You can sit down even just with some paper, a pencil, some pencil crayons, some wax crayons. Like, it really doesn't matter what you're just trying to move with that lunar energy for the day, even if you just have 10 minutes. On Thursday, that it's that last quarter moon, the moon is still in the sign of Gemini, but the moon is also having a challenging relationship with Mars and Mercury, who are in the sign of Virgo. This might feel like tension between your emotional needs and your instinct to take action and analyze, or tension between your intuition and what you feel is pragmatic. So, like, do I follow my intuition and do what I'm feeling like I have a gut feeling towards, or do I be practical? And better yet, how can I actually work with those two things and honor both my intuition and my pragmatism? So, in your art journal, draw or collage an image representing a message you received from your spirit allies today. And the reason for that is the moon is in the sign of Gemini, which is ruled by Mercury, and they're both really great for connecting with the spiritual realms. So, and receiving that communication from spirit, because Gemini and Mercury both rule those themes of communication. So, take a moment just to sit down and think, okay, what is a message I received recently, or even just honor a message that you received in the past by creating a page in your art journal that shows that. On Friday, the moon is in the last quarter phase and moving into the sign of Cancer. But the moon is void of course from the late morning to the early evening in the mountain time zone. That time period obviously is going to change depending on your time zone, but it's a significant period of time that the moon is void of course. So I think it's a good day to engage in activities that nurture your emotional well being. This is also an opportune time for self reflection and introspection, and it's also a waning moon phase. So those two things go really well. So you're getting a lot of energy that's asking you, like, draw inward and look inside. So in your art journal, draw, paint, or collage an image representing an area of your life that you've been neglecting. So where is it that maybe you could use a little bit, or give a little bit more attention to? On Saturday, that moon is in the balsamic phase. So it's moving from the last quarter to the balsamic, and it's in the sign of Cancer. So there's a lot of depth in this energy. It's that balsamic phase is a symbol of endings, of release, and again, that spiritual preparation. It's during this time that we are asked to let go and to surrender what no longer serves us. So let's say you have something that you had set some intentions during the new moon, and you're realizing, oh, that needs to be tweaked or changed, or there's something in here that I really need to let go, so that I can prepare myself for the next new cycle to come. It's a good day to cultivate practices that echo the wisdom of the dark goddess, because that dark goddess archetype or the dark mother archetype is really represented in that balsamic phase. So in your art journal, you might want to draw, paint, or collage an image that represents the dark goddess. Working with the imagery and the colors and the things that you associate with the dark goddess in a creative way like this really helps you to get a better idea of how you feel and what your personal relationship with the dark goddess archetype is. On Sunday, the moon is in the balsamic phase still, and in this sign of Cancer, but it's having a happy relationship, if you'll see in this imagery, because those triangles and those star symbols beside those planets is showing happy relationships. And it's having a happy relationship with 5 planets. So there's a lot of good energy happening here. Some of these relationships, like I said, are trines, which is the triangle, and some of them are sextiles, which is like the star shape. And the trine is kind of representing like a good flow of energy, and the sextile is an aspect signifying kind of like opportunity. So doors are opening, there's a lot of flow. And so it's creating it's drawing, the moon's drawing down some really exceptional energy for harmony and potential. So in your art journal, I would flow with this energy and kind of create an image that represents a blessing you'd like the universe to send your way today, or one that you observed it already has, or one that you'd like to draw to you in the next lunar cycle. So really just focusing on blessings. So either expressing gratitude for blessings that have already happened, or expressing gratitude for blessings that you're getting. Now, I want to talk a little bit more about that waning moon, just to get you really centered on how you might want to work with it in terms of your own rising sign. So, again, just understanding your birth chart, you want to create that birth chart so that you know your rising sign, and your rising sign is going to be in that first house. Again, I have a video on my YouTube channel that really shows that, so you can look that up. But those astrological houses on your birth chart, each, slice of pie on that chart is represents different areas of your life. So the new moon is moving towards that new moon in Leo. So that's going to affect a certain area of your life. But these waning mooning phases, some of the things that we can work with in these waning moon phases, which is like the disseminating moon, the last quarter moon, the balsamic moon, or the waning crescent moon. With those moons, we want to draw inward, reflect, rest. It's a good time for resting. Like, that's such a lovely thing that the moon teaches us, is we don't always have to be producing. We don't always have to be in action. We can also rejuvenate and just take a moment to rest and relax. So this is a good time to do that. It's also a great time to do some shadow work and healing with your subconscious mind, or even some inner child healing. I have a lot of recordings in my moon mapping year, work with the map method and the subconscious mind in order to do that rewiring of the brain, because the waning moon phases are a great time to do that. The waning moon phases also help release old habits, emotional baggage, and limiting beliefs. It's a good time for acceptance. It's that time where you're looking at, like, okay, the full moon came, which represents the harvest, or the things in my life that come to manifestation. But sometimes things don't come into manifestation as you thought they should, or as you wanted them to. And so it's also a time for acceptance and trust. And it's also a good time for forgiveness of yourself, of others when it's appropriate, and making peace with the past and accepting what is. It's also a great time for creating space for new possibilities, because we're moving towards that, planting new seed energy. So you're wanting to do what you need to do to create a blank slate, energetically, emotionally, spiritually, mentally, but then think, okay, now that I've went through that last lunar cycle, what have I learned? What am I grateful for? What can I let go? And then what do I want to create now? So at this time in those waning phases, we're preparing for that new lunar cycle. And like I said, that good time for cleansing and the rejuvenating and contemplating your next seeds of intention, it's also a really great time to express your devotion to spirit and for presenting offerings to spirit, your spirit allies, the divine, whoever it is that you worship or are devoted to in your spiritual practice. For instance, your ancestors and the earth, the moon, the sun. And that emotional and spiritual nourishment is a really good time to soak that up during those waning moon phases. Because when we're in that action kind of energy or that growing moon energy, sometimes we don't have time to do as much nourishing or self care as we might need. So the waning moon phases are also representative of those in the life cycle as the death and decay, and it's also representative of the autumn in in the seasons. So, in the waning moon phases, some of the questions you might ask yourself are like, how can I better value what's important to me? How can I honor my feelings? How can I trust my intuition? Because there's such a draw inwards that also really strengthens our connection to our third eye or to our psychic abilities or to our empathy or just any way that we receive our intuitive messages. It's also a good time to ask, how can I mother my own heart? How can I nurture myself? Can I better support my dreams? And where do I need support? How can I reach out and ensure I'm receiving it? And also, what have I buried in my subconscious realm? Because that's really important when you're wanting to stretch and grow and move towards new goals, is you're going to have to bump up against limiting beliefs or inner parts that are younger or even past life parts or ancestral parts or any parts that carry generational trauma or memories of trauma. That's all going to be in your subconscious realm and they need to be tended to before you work towards your goals or before you set your new moon intentions or as you're setting your new moon intentions so that you're preparing your inner world to be in alignment with what you're wanting to create in your life. If your rising sign is Aries, the moon is moving through your third and your fourth house this week, and the new moon will be in your fifth house. So that new moon in Leo is really asking, oh, how can I be a leader in my own life? So how can I stand in my personal power? So in order to work with that lunar energy that's coming up, in order to prepare for it, you want to ask, what do I need to release or let go from the last lunar cycle in order to become a stronger leader in my own life? And how can the fifth house help me to stand in my power? And that fifth house is really the house of creativity, creative projects, your sexuality, your sex life, your parenting, and your children, if you have some. And again, also just your relationship with creativity. So, how can those areas of your life help you stand in your personal power, or what needs to change in those areas of your life for you to lead your life where you want to go? That Taurus, if your rising sign is Taurus, the moon is moving through your first and your third house. The new moon will be in your fourth house. So that's the house of home and living situation. It's also the house of your ancestors and what grew you. So it's also the house of your parents and your inner child and the relationship you have with your parents. So, as you're thinking about being a leader in your own life and preparing for that new moon, what do you need to release and let go from the last lunar cycle in order to become a stronger leader in your own life? And how can those areas of your life, like your relationship with your parents or your home, your current home and your current living situation, or your childhood and any inner child thoughts or memories you might be carrying, how can tending to those help you stand in your personal power, or what needs to change in those areas of your life in order for you to lead your life where you really want it to go? If your rising sign is Gemini, the moon is moving through your 12th and all the way to your second house and the new moon will be in your third house. So, that third house is the house of communication, it's the house of the goddess, it's the house of moon rituals, it's the house of your siblings and your peers. So, being a leader in your own life, you can also see that it's the house of education or early education or even just you being an educator or a teacher. So, what do you need to release or let go from the last lunar cycle in order to become a stronger leader in your own life? And how can those areas of your life from the third house help you stand in your personal power, or what needs to change in those areas of your life for you to lead your life where you want it to go? If your rising sign is Cancer, the moon is moving through your 11th to your first house, and the new moon will be in your second house. That house is the house of your money, it's the house of your livelihood, how you earn your money, and it's your relationship with money, and it's the things that you own or your assets. So, when you're considering being a leader in your own life, what do you need to release or let go from the last lunar cycle in order to become a stronger leader in your own life? And how can that second house help you stand in your personal power? Or what needs to change in your relationship with money, or the things that you own in order for you to lead your life where you want it to go? If your rising sign is Leo, the moon is moving through your 10th to your 12th house, and the new moon will be in your first house because we're having that new moon in Leo. So that new moon in Leo is asking us, how can we be a leader in our own lives? And so for you, with it being in the first house, you really want to think about standing in your personal power and what that looks like in your body, in your relationship with your body, in your appearance or how you appear to others, or just in your very essence. Because the first house is really representative also of your true essence or your spirit. So, what do you need to release or let go from the last lunar cycle in order to become a stronger leader in your own life? And how can your first house help you stand in your personal power, or what needs to change in those areas of your life? So, what needs to change in your relationship with your body, or what needs to change in your relationship with your spirit in order for you to lead your life where you want it to go? If your rising sign is Virgo, the moon is moving through your ninth to your 11th house, and the new moon will be in your 12th house. Again, you're looking at what being a leader in your own life looks like. So, what do you need to release or let go from the last lunar cycle in order to become a stronger leader in your own life? And how can that 12th house, which is the house of the subconscious realm, it's the house of the secret, so things you keep hidden from yourself or others, it's house of, your shadow self. So, what in that realm might you need to change in order for you to lead your life where you want to go, or in order for you to stand in your personal power? If your rising sign is Libra, the moon is moving through your 8th to your 10th house, and the new moon will be in your 11th house. So that's the house of friendship, groups, communities, and the house of hopes and wishes. So, when you're considering being a leader in your own life, what do you need to release or let go from the last lunar cycle in order to do that? Also, how can that 11th house, so your friends or your relationship with groups and communities, your work with communities, the way that you connect with other people, how can that, and even just your hopes and wishes, what do you need to change in those areas of your life in order for you to lead your life where you want it to go next? Your rising sign is Scorpio. The moon is moving through your seventh to your ninth house. So that new moon will be in your 10th house. Being a leader in your own life, you might want to look at what that means in terms of your career or your reputation or your ideas of success, because the 10th house really represents those areas of your life. So, when you're thinking about what do I need to release or let go in order to become a stronger leader in my own life, you might want to think about it in terms of your career. You also might want to ask, how can my career or my reputation help me stand in my personal power? Or what do I need to change in my career or in my ideas of success or my reputation in order for me to lead my life where I want it to go? If your rising sign is Sagittarius, the moon is moving through your 6th to your 8th house, and the new moon will be in your ninth house. So that's the house of publishing, it's the house of international travel, it's the house of higher education, it's the house of spirituality, your faith, your religion. So you might want to ask when it comes to being a leader in your own life, how can those areas of your life help you stand in your personal power? Or what do you need to release or let go from the last lunar cycle in order for you to become a stronger leader in your own life? And when you think about those areas of your life, so your relationship with publishing or your desires for international travel or your history with international travel or higher education or your faith and your spirituality, what do you need to change in those areas of your life in order to lead your life where you want it to go next? If your rising sign is Capricorn, the moon is moving through your fifth to your seventh house, and the new moon will be in your eighth house. So, this is where you it involves areas of your life that have to do with your psyche, so your emotional and your mental well being. It also has to do with your relationship with death, and also shared money and taxes. So, when you consider being a leader in your own life, stop and take a little bit of time to think this week, what do I need to release or let go from the last lunar cycle in order to become a stronger leader in my own life? And how can those areas of my life, so either my psyche or my relationship with death or my emotional mental well-being or the money I share with someone, what needs to change in those areas of my life in order for me to lead my life where I want it to go next? If your rising sign is Aquarius, the moon is moving through your fourth to your sixth house, and the new moon will be in your seventh house. So, this is the house of relationships, marriage. It's like the house of really close, intimate relationships. So, not just any relationship, but those ones that are really sacred to you and really intimate and close, like the ones that know you inside and out. And it's also the house of partnerships. This week, you're thinking about being a leader in your own life and what you need to release or let go from the last lunar cycle in order to become a stronger leader in your own life. And how can your seventh house or your intimate relationships or any strong partnerships help you stand in your personal power, or what needs to change in your relationships in order for you to lead your life where you want it to go? And finally, if your rising sign is Pisces, the moon is moving through your third and your fifth house, and that new moon will be in your sixth house. So, being a leader in your own life, you'll want to think about what does that mean to you, especially in the areas of your life that have to do with health, that have to do with work routines or daily routines, or even your relationship with your pets. So, being a leader in your own life, what do you need to release or let go from the last lunar cycle in order to become a stronger leader in your own life? Or how can those areas of your life, like your health or your work routines, help you stand in your personal power? Or what needs to change in those areas of your life for you to lead your life where you want it to go? So, I hope that helps you work with the waning moon energy this week, and we'll see you next week.